Hey everyone, my name is Masha and in this video I'm going to be making this fun bracelet. Alright, so before we actually get into the footage of me making the bracelet, I thought I'd talk a bit about how I'm making the bracelet. So I'm using a technique called segment knotting. I'm going to preface this by saying I am not an expert. I feel like a lot of you guys leave comments and ask questions thinking that I'm like this amazing bracelet maker that knows everything. I don't. I'm just a girl who likes making bracelets and is making videos about it. I don't know everything, and I'm learning as I'm going along, and I'm making videos about it because when I find out something cool, I want to share it with more people. But I don't actually know the answers to everything. So with this bracelet, I don't know if I'm making it the correct way or if it's the best way, but this is just how I did it. Since making this bracelet, I've actually found out that there's a pretty cool technique that helps you keep the edges of your bracelet straight and make sure that they won't bend or warp. I have not tried this yet. I'm going to try this out first, and if it works, and then I'm going to make a video about it to share with you guys. So I'm just going to say that now because in the video I do complain that the bracelet edges are a bit wonky. Right, so now let's get into the segment knotting part of the video. This is how I did it. This is not the best way, probably, but this is just how I did it. You will see in my footage, actually, later on, that I am sort of trying to figure out how to do it, and I do a couple of rows, and actually quite a few rows I do differently to how I'm showing you now. This is just what I figured out by the end that is the most comfortable. So what I would recommend is starting somewhere and doing the entire row as it is on the pattern. So I started by doing row 12, I did the entire row first, and then I went into making the bracelet. So we did the row 12, then we go in and doing 2 of the knots on the 13th row. So I'm going to show you a couple of steps that I did in the segment knotting, and then to complete the bracelet you have to circle back to the beginning and continue doing the entire thing again and again and again once you reach, until you reach the desired length that you want. When you come back to this step, you are not going to do the black knot that is on the left. You are just going to do the purple knot. But for the first time, you are going to do the black knot. The reason for this is because I circled the black knot here for the first step because we started with the 12th row, and then on the 13th row we have to make this knot. But when we circle back to it, one of the steps near the end is already going to make this knot, so you don't have to do it again. So for the first time, do it. Once you circle back to it, don't do it. Right, continuing. With these knots, I figured out, so again, I said that there was a technique that I found that helps you keep your edges straight, but what I did figure out when I was making this video, this bracelet, sorry, as well, was that it helps, you see in the pattern, the knots are shown as forward knots, but it helps if you make them backward knots. I can't say why, I don't know. I think like it sort of balances each other out because you've got all of the black knots being forward knots on the right, and if you make all the black knots on the left to be backward knots, it sort of like pulls the strings in different sides. I don't know why, but it helps. Like, trust me, I've made this bracelet, I know that it actually helps. But if you make these knots backward knots, and it's not going to make a difference because they are knots between 2 of the same color, so whatever knot you do, it's going to still be black, so it's fine. So here I did backward knots, starting from row 13, then 14, then I went back to the first row. So I did it in I did it with 1 string. I just take 1 string and I do backward knots on each of those, for each of those knots. So the next step I did the same. You can see that the 14th row becomes the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and again I took 1 string and I made backward knots, 4 backward knots with it to the left. Once I finished with that, I did a bunch of backward knots with the pink thread until the end, and then I did a backward forward knot once I reached the end. Next I did the same thing with the light pink thread. Then I finished off the little triangle with the black threads. I did backward knots here as well because the triangle goes to the right and to the left, and if it's going to the left I did backward knots. So I feel like that's just generally a good thing. Whenever you have 2 threads that are the same color and it doesn't matter what knot you do, you should sort of follow the pattern. So in this pattern you see that the black thread goes to the right and then goes to the left in sort of triangle shape. So here at the end of the triangle shape I would do it backward. So then I finished the light blue thread going backwards as well, and the dark blue thread. Then I did the black knot, and then I did all of these black knots as well, finally reaching the purple thread, then I did the dark purple thread, and I sort of came back with the light purple thread as well, because the last knot in this section on the 6th row is a light purple. Then I started the triangle with the black threads. Again, the triangle in this shape is going to the left, so I did backward knots instead of the forward knots in the pattern. Then I did the light blue thread going to the left and then turning around. Then I finished off the black knots on the right, went to the right with the entirety of the blue thread, then the light blue thread. Then I finished off the triangle, and since it is going to the right, I did make forward knots. Then I finished off the pink, the dark pink. Then here, again, we're going to the left, so we're doing backward knots with all of the black threads. Then I went in with the dark purple, light purple, then started this triangle going to the right. Then I did these knots, and then I circled back to the beginning. So now you could go to the very beginning and start again. So why I'm showing you this? I'm showing you this just so you get an idea of what my logic is when I'm trying to realize and trying to figure out how to make a bracelet easier. Segment knotting is a technique that helps you make bracelets quickly. It really, really helps, because this bracelet, if I had just done it row by row like a regular pattern, it probably would have taken me about 5 hours. In reality, this bracelet maximum, I lost a little bit of footage, so I can't say for sure, but maximum took me like 2.5 hours. It did not take me that long. Because I did it in the segment knot fashion, it was quite quick and easy to do. So I just wanted to show you what my logic is and how I think about what knots I should make and when I am making my bracelets. So now let's get into the footage. Right, so welcome to the time-lapse portion of the video. So you can see that I am making an entire row as it was on the pattern. I don't actually think I made the 12th row, I might have lied about that. I don't remember which row I did. And you can see me trying to figure out how to do the segment knotting for this pattern. Ideally, you should probably figure these things out before you start making the bracelet and maybe make a plan of how you're going to knot the bracelet in advance. But I'm way too lazy to do that, so whenever I make a bracelet, I just sit down and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to figure this out as I go. So I always just, figure it out as I'm going along. And you can see here, well, I mean, I finished already, but you could have seen there, is that I was actually following the pattern originally. I was doing forward knots on the left side of the bracelet for the black knots, and then only in the middle of the bracelet I was like, okay, I'm going to try making backward knots and see if that helps, because I noticed that the bracelet was beginning to be a bit wonky and it was really annoying me. So yeah, I only figured out the best way to do the segment knotting at the very end, which is why I'm not actually doing what I told you to do here. So yeah. I'm actually making this bracelet for a friend. My friend requested that I made this pattern for her because I haven't made a bracelet for her before. So yeah, I was really excited to do this, and I was listening to a lovely audiobook while I was making it. I haven't finished the audiobook yet because I made the bracelet way quicker. The audiobook was like 10 hours and I made this bracelet in like 2.5, I think. By the way, I did mention, but I lost some of the footage, so in some of the cuts you might be able to tell that the bracelet sort of jumps. I don't know what happened. This has never happened before and I have no idea what happened, but for some reason, like, some of the footage is just gone. It's just not there. There is a possibility that I might have forgotten to press record, which is annoying. I'm thinking that is probably why, because my camera has never lost anything, and you can see that. So like in cameras, they name, they give file names and numbers, and it didn't skip a number, so obviously it didn't delete a file or anything. So I think I might have just forgotten to press record in some bits, which is quite annoying, but what can you do? So I was listening to a lovely audiobook while I was making this. It's actually, a lot of you know, I'm sort of half Russian. I actually did a DNA test recently, a 23andMe. I mean, it's not sponsored or anything, I would love to be, but no. I did a 23andMe DNA test to figure out like what my ancestry is, and turns out I'm not actually half Russian as I thought I was. I was like 40-something%, I think 43% Russian or something like that. Anyway, I speak Russian and I am somewhat Russian, so I was listening to a lovely audiobook by Nikolai Gogol, I don't know how to say that in English. I can never say Russian names in English because I know how to actually pronounce them correctly, but whatever. Gogol? I don't know how to say it. I was listening to Мертвые души, which in English is Dead Souls. It's a classic book, and I was supposed to read it at school. Like, we had it as a subject, as a book we had to read for our literature lesson, but I never did. I just wrote essays about it based on what I found on the internet, and I never actually read the book. And now I was like, I'm making this bracelet and I don't know what I should do, so I just googled audiobook, and that was the first one that came up in Russian. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And I ended up really enjoying it. I'm nearly done now because I listened to it not only when I was making the bracelet, but I'm nearly done with it now, and I'm really enjoying it. I really recommend it. Actually, I don't know, I'm not sure if I recommend it in English because there's a lot of contextual information that you need to know, because it's about like Russia in the 1800s, I think. So you need to know a lot of history of Russia to understand what's going on in the book, but I recommend it for my Russian-speaking followers and viewers. But yeah, we're getting to the end of the bracelet now. I really enjoyed making this. This was really fun. Oh, you can see that I made mistakes here when I was doing the ties at the end. I did a bit of an experiment. I was like, okay, what if I do a black row to see, you know, what it's going to look like with just a black row before I make the ties, and I realised that it looks terrible, so I had to undo the entire thing, so that was fun. But I really enjoyed making this bracelet. I think my friend did an amazing job choosing a beautiful pattern. I really enjoyed this pattern. I might actually make it again just for myself, because whenever, like I said before, and I've said this in my bracelet collection video, whenever I make bracelets, I never wear them, I just keep them, and now I'm giving this one away, so I'm not going to be able to keep it. I'm debating whether or not I should make another one, just to keep. But yeah, I really like this pattern. I think it's really beautiful. You can see that the edges of the bracelet sort of came out a bit wonky. I did say that making the knots on the left to be backward knots sort of helped out at the end, and it did. But it is still a bit wonky. I did find an interesting technique, and I'm going to try it out to see if it actually helps, and if it does, I'm going to make a video about it. But yeah, overall I am quite happy with how it turned out. I messed up on one of the ends. I don't know what happened, but I messed up, and one of the ends didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to, but it's fine. Overall, I am really pleased with this bracelet, and I would definitely recommend it. So thank you very much for watching. If you ever make anything based on any of my videos, I always love to see whenever you send me pictures on Instagram via direct messages, or just by tagging me in a post that you make. So yeah, always do that. I love seeing it. I love interacting with you guys. And thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in my next video. Bye!